video. Why the fuck not? This video is long. So, grind, this script is long. Grind is when you trust what you are doing will lead you to the expected slash preferred result. Believe, believe will happen. The flow is when you trust yourself and that what you are doing leads to the preferred result. All right, so here there's a separation. There's the grind, and there's basically the flow. The grind is based on trust in what you are doing, while the flow is based on trust on yourself, of yourself. And one basically leads to one is a belief. So the grind is when you trust what you are doing will lead to the expected slash preferred result, which means there's a belief that it will happen, right? A belief that the expected slash preferred result will happen. But the flow is when you trust yourself, period. And when you're trusting yourself, you're trusting the intention behind yourself. Because remember, yourself doesn't exist. It's the engine of your expression. So what it's doing is basically taking whatever intention you have and expressing it through the reality that you create in your head. And that what you are doing leads, so the flow is when you trust yourself and what you are doing, and that what you are doing leads to the preferred results. Here's the grind at the top, is trusting what you are doing. And the flow is trusting yourself and that what you are doing. So it's just one has a mental structure and one lacks it. Both of them have what you are doing basically involved. It's funny because the more you grind, the less you trust yourself, or the less trust in yourself you have. Because ultimately you'll be pushing the grind. Whilst the flow, you're putting trust in yourself, which means you're pouring something out, which technically also becomes a grind. So this is not really a balance. It's the difference between the source and the symptom. What we're doing is we're treating the grind as a cure. And ultimately, the grind also leads to results, correct? If you're grinding and you have a certain, and you have an intention behind your grind, or let's just say a deliberate goal slash target behind your grind, then you will get somewhere. But that somewhere is often met with a person you don't know, because the grind is affecting you, and when the time comes and you reach your goal, you're probably going to be wondering what's next. You're probably going to be in that lost state. You're probably going to be in like a lot of processes in your mind no longer are needed because you got there. So ultimately what happens is just kind of like they process everything else, which you didn't process simply because you were focused on what you were doing. You were trusting what you were doing, which means all your energy, all your focus is grabbed by you and pushed into something. Whilst the flow is basically you focusing on yourself. Remember that yourself is the engine of expression. And so when you're focusing on yourself, what you're doing is always kind of like regulating those processes and engaging with these kind of like mini structures. By doing that, you are effectively by doing that you are effectively Understanding your engine, understanding the processes, understanding the mechanism behind how you express. When you're doing that, you could only do that when you're doing something, but instead of focusing on it, focusing on yourself. Because if your attention is on yourself, then ultimately yourself just kind of like focuses on whatever it's pouring its energy, whatever's coming up, whatever it's pouring its energy into. In a way, this true discipline is not true discipline is not forced. It's genuinely spending time on whatever it is you're doing, understanding your relationship with it. That's basically the flow. That's how you kind of like flow. You flow. You flow. It's not about getting into a flow. Is you are flowing, which means everything you touch becomes a flow on its own. So trusting what you are doing is basically dealing with the symptom. And literally just instead of re-engineering the engine, what you're doing is creating different shaped outputs of it. Using the same engine, sorry, using the same mechanism of the same engine, and basically just adding, appending. And really, what I'm trying to imagine is basically a car engine that's being used to light a house. Anyway, we look at it, that's probably not the most efficient way to do it, but it could work. Well, the truth is, if we want to light a house using a car engine, instead of tweaking the output of the engine, which is what the grind does, the grind is basically focusing on what you are doing, which is basically tweaking our outputs. Like we're starting from whatever's coming out and moving in, versus the flow, which is us tweaking the engine so that the output is different. And ultimately, all the engine does is kind of like is energy, right? It's creating this energy, whether it's electricity, whether it's through water, whatever it is, it's creating that energy. So, it's because it's the engine of our expression. That means it's translating the energy. So since it's translating the energy, when we're focusing on ourselves, what we're doing is we're translating the energy in a way that's we're tweaking the engine in order for the energy to be translated more efficiently, more effectively. Different. And most of our days are spent pouring energy into different things. Whilst from a grinding perspective, you're kind of forcing certain outputs out of the engine. So you're losing efficiency definitely. And whatever effectivity you have, it's limited to what exactly you are, to the goal that you created for yourself. It's no longer a vision. It becomes a target. Like I'm doing this for this, I'm doing this for this, I'm doing this for this. Yeah, it seems when you're grinding, you kind of like get what you want. Or let me say it this way. When you're grinding, you get what you wanted. It's very much tunnel vision. It reveals a whole lot of sacrifice, a whole lot of just I don't know, it's like outputted sadness, I guess. But when it comes to the flow, you're kind of sticking to a vision and trusting yourself. And ultimately, wherever your energy is being poured, it's going to contribute to a whole instead of a piece that you were able to see at one point, right? Because if you have a goal, if you had a goal a year ago, it should change. The closer you get to it, the more it changes in perspective. But if you're grinding, you're only focusing on whatever you're doing, which allows the goal to kind of like stay looking similar or the same. It doesn't really allow you to change. It doesn't really allow you to kind of like evolve. It's the same person forcing something out of it, which creates a certain mold that you have to stick to in order to maintain it. It loses all its harmony. Don't get me wrong, the flow does the exact same things, but your energy is being poured into yourself instead of what you're doing. So you're always changing and adapting until suddenly you kind of go like, oh shit, I reached the vision is clear now and it's there. All that good stuff. Yeah, it's a video, and I think it was made for